Okay, so with Rap Coalition, which is that's your primary thing on the day to day now, or what are
Yes,
the
I mean,
businesses that
Rap
you work on
Coalition's
daily?
it's the not for profit side of what I do. We educate artists and we pull artists out of bad deals. It's not something I have to do every day, thank God. I mean, education is, but pulling people out of bad deals, I don't do that every day. We're in our 28th year. We still don't charge for that. We still help artists for free.
Mm.
But on the for-profit side of what I do, I run a company called Power Moves, and we help artists make money with their music. So when an artist has an investor, and by investor I mean they have to have around $250,000, right? Because that's what it takes to make money in music. That's what it takes to build an independent label or a hugely successful career. They usually reach out to me and say, okay, I've got the investor, now show me how to do this. And very hands-on, we show them how to market, how to promote, how to structure and organize their company, how to get to that next level so that there'll be money coming back into the company so that they can then go on to sign other artists and really build an independent record label, like a real one, you know? Some people that hire me want to build leverage so that they can go and get a deal. I'm not against that, but I really like the guys that can stay independent. Like, to me, that's just awesome. When you can have the control over your career, you can call the shots, and then you can build a company so that you can keep doing the same thing for others coming behind you. Like, that's the goal, is to build
Definitely.
as many independent labels as I possibly can before I die.
Just as a high profile example, when you were watching the situation go down with Megan Thee Stallion and Carl Crawford, is that the kind of situation that you see playing out all the time, where you have a guy who's, you know, not really a music industry guy, but he's trying to start a label of some sort. He signs somebody to a deal that might be sort of objectionable, and then you sort of get called in, I'm assuming around like the time that Megan had to have Rock Nation called in, where she just basically realized that the terms of her deals weren't fair. Were you looking at that specific deal, and did you have any strong feelings about it? And
I did look at that deal. I didn't speak out on it because I didn't know what the deal was with 300. And it's very hard for me to look at her deal with Carl Crawford and not know what they signed to at 300, because the deal that they signed to is what would have made that deal good or bad. And what I mean by that is, I think the split was 60-40 between them. I can't really remember, but let's just say for the sake of argument that it was 60-40. And if she's getting 60% of 100%, that's fucking great.
Right.
But if she's getting 60% of 12 points, that's some fuck shit. So I couldn't speak on it because I didn't know what the deal was between the label she was signed to and the label that was inevitably paying them, you know? And nobody can speak on that except people that have seen that agreement.
Right.
I'm interested to see what happens with it going to court, because at the end of the day, she signed a contract. So I'm anxious to see what Texas courts do. You know, the artist friendly side of me is anxious to see if the court will throw it out. But the side of me that saw how much money he spent to get her where he got her makes me say, you know, he should get a return on his investment.
Right.
Sometimes artists, you know, I'm going through that with one of my clients right now. Like, sometimes artists don't look at the value of the money or the experience. I've got a client who put, you know, over $125,000 into a rapper, and the rapper was like, yeah, I'm not happy now, I'm just going to go sign to QC.
Right.
And it doesn't work that way. Like, if you sign an agreement with somebody, you have to live up to that agreement, or you have to negotiate your way out of it. There is no, I'm just going to pretend this didn't happen.
Right.
It's like trying to get unpregnant. It's very hard to do.
Do you feel like the average rapper coming out right now, I mean, everybody signs to a major label, it feels like these days. Do you yourself see a very a logical path that they could take that doesn't involve signing to a major label, or do you end up thinking that most artists need to do that?
No, I don't think artists need to at all. I think that, you know, everybody has to do what's best for them. So I don't want to say all of one thing is great or none of another isn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are people that have done very well. Macklemore's done great independent. Chance the Rapper's done great independent.
But when you see like Macklemore had that big explosion for a couple of years, and then sort of, you know, it doesn't feel like his career has necessarily had the legs that you might have expected, and I guess sort of
That
in the
had to
same.
be his choice, though.
I mean, yeah, I wonder that, and sometimes I wonder if it was the label. And same thing with Chance. Like Chance, huge artist, but we never really saw him have that mega hit. There's certain things that didn't seem like they really happened in Chance's career that maybe they
Right.
would have if he had been signed to a massive label, right?
And they may have. I'm assuming that if he didn't have a mega hit, he didn't want one, because we all know that he could have bought a mega hit.
Right.
You know, he's got the money, he's got the access, so he may have just been driven by wanting to just build a career and put music out that he wanted people to hear. And I don't know him, so it's really hard for me to speak about what his intentions are. But to me, he is a gospel rapper. Like he is, you know, I just didn't notice it for the first couple of albums.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just feel like he's driven by something a little different than wanting to be the next Drake.
Right.
I may be wrong. Like I said, I don't know him. I just feel like he puts music out that he wants to share with the world. He's not trying to be the next big superstar.
So
Could you be a superstar independently? I don't know. It's not been proven. If my goal as a rapper was to be as big as Drake, I would probably sign to a major label. If I was an artist that didn't have any entrepreneurial ability and no hustle, I would for sure sign to a major label. So I don't want to imply that major labels don't have a place in this or that they're bad, because they're not. They're just different. You know, I see major labels as a cruise ship, and I see independent rappers as jet skis, and they both have their benefits. I wouldn't want to take a jet ski all the way to Europe. I'd rather be on a cruise ship to do that.
Right.
But I also wouldn't want to be on a cruise ship if I had to make a U-turn really quickly. You know, if I was going towards I don't know, like an iceberg, I wouldn't want to be in a cruise ship. I'd rather be on a jet ski because I know I could just zip around it so easily.
No,
Whereas
yeah, that's a pretty good metaphor.
Plow into it.
That's a pretty good metaphor. I was thinking about saying, like, would you rather be the general manager of a Home Depot, or would you rather start your own local hardware store? And
yeah,
but
I guess it depends on your goals.
I like
and if I'm
yours
going to
better.
start my own hardware store, I'm absolutely going to join Ace Hardware, because
Right.
I'd want that. You know, I'd want that, and we have Merlin in the independent world, so I'd want that magic of being able to group with all the other mom and pop stores to get the discounts.
Yeah, that is a strange thing. Like I grew up with you know, constantly, because my mom's a librarian. I grew up constantly hearing the argument, not from her necessarily, but the idea that we need to, you know, support local bookstores because Barnes and Nobles is just coming through and destroying all of them. And now the argument is basically you need to support Barnes and Nobles because Amazon's going to destroy them.
Yes, that's real.
Yeah, because now
So when you were a kid, did you read a lot, or did you rebel against it because your mom was a librarian?
Yeah, no, she got me into it like real young, to the point where just, you know, I definitely spent a lot of time not reading, but certainly, you know, she made it like a very normal part of my life from really early
Same
on,
here.
which is like a huge thing that I'm just mega thankful for when I really think about it. Like I know a ton of people who just did not grow up with that influence, and it's the kind of thing now where reading books feels very optional to a lot of young people, whereas like probably even when I was being raised in like the late 80s, early 90s, when I was like in my childhood, that was sort of true then too, where it's like, you know, reading wasn't so necessary in the age of television and everything, but I hope that I can still convince my kids of the importance of reading long form stuff.
You will, because it's in you. You know, when I was growing up, my parents would take me to the bookstore, and we were allowed to choose one book, and we were allowed to choose, I can't remember if it was every other week or every month. It was probably every month. And that was it was like a treat. And it was like going to the toy store. And I think that if you raise a child to think that having a book is special or reading is special, they'll read. Do you still read? today.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I find
do.
that's a lot of because another thing that I've like really been able to find time for in the pandemic is just doing these sort of like long form videos on my channel where I just investigate the fuck out of something and then basically find a way to write about it and then turn that into a video. And I feel like so many people are limited to the information that is on the internet. And it's like, if you want to, I feel like I'm working on a video about Pimp C. Julia Beverly's book about him is like absolutely unbelievable.
It is.
And most of the time when you listen to people talk about Pimp C on the internet, you primarily like, you could pretty much draw lines between the things on his Wikipedia and the things that people are talking about, because people just tend to go towards the most basic explanation of a person. So, pretty much like if you, like I could imagine myself making like an incredibly in-depth video on Tupac, but I'm not going to be able to make it off of just, like I'm going to be extremely limited if I just stick to the stuff that's on YouTube that everybody's looking at. Whereas these books, like there's so many books that are just sitting there on the shelf, and if you were to take however many hours to really dig in there, I mean, there's unbelievable amounts of information that just isn't really online yet.
Exactly.
Wendy, I definitely am going to put together some more questions and hit you up in the very near future and try to do this again, because it's one of the better conversations I had in recent memory.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment. I'm so humbled that you were like, come do this. I was like, oh, fuck. It's one thing to talk with people about the industry, but it's another thing to talk to people whose shit you actually watch.
I appreciate that.
And I'm really, really, really humbled by that. Thank you.
My publicist, Laura, I think gave me the idea because she is more familiar with like every personality in hip hop, including people who are, people who made their mark 40 years ago, and including people who have 5,000 followers on YouTube right now. Like, she is so ridiculously familiar with all this stuff, and I'm not 100% sure why all the time, but she actually, I think, she tossed me the idea, and I was like, wow, that is a great idea, Laura. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
Rock.
It's always thank you, Laura. And she will have to do timestamps for this, so she's going to see this in real time as she's sitting there writing out the notes about everything else you said. And I'm sure that she's probably in tears right now. She's kind of emotional.
Oh, hey, when's your baby due?
Halloween.
Are you nervous?
It's a little spooky, but not so much.
I'm so proud of you. Good for you.
I'm excited. Yeah, I hope I can find ways consistently to make my girlfriend feel like I am, a very big part of the child rearing, because I know her so well, and I know that she's the type to really just like take on everything she possibly can without really asking for help. So I'm
step up.
I'm trying to get her into that mentality of like, you have to ask me, you have to tell me that this, and this are my responsibility, and I'll do it. But don't I just don't want her to think that she's limited to the amount of help that I sort of like outwardly just give her. I'm like, you got to demand shit of me,
Right. As long as she knows that, that's fine. But every now and again, you're going to have to just step up. Yeah. Like when you see her tired, step in.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm trying to be more, because she's just too, she's too polite. She just doesn't want to tell me that she needs, like what she needs from me. And it's like, that's my main concern is rising to the occasion,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've killed every relationship I've ever had because of that.
Really?
Yeah. It's really hard to like say, I need this, I need that.
Really?
I just do it.
Wow, that's interesting. Maybe I should get you on the phone with her.
Interesting bad. Put that on the list of questions for the next time.
There you go. Another classic interview in the books. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and head on over to nojumper.com to support. Appreciate y'all.